After Dark. I am your host for today, Joel. On deck, we have returning, All-Stars or something? Mr.
Something
Jason
like
Bradley.
that.
Hello.
And Andreas Yankopoulos.
Hello, all.
Am I still 100% on your last name pronunciation?
Oh, spot on.
Oh, I
Couldn't say it better myself.
Watch where you step. It's getting pretty thick in here.
Already.
Already. Guys, I'm excited to have you on. Ben is traveling to another country to do shooting training stuff, so I'm your host for today. You guys know the deal. We all come here to talk about shooting. Maybe something made you angry. Maybe you have a show and tell that you've been already talking to us about that I'm excited to hear you talk about. And, whatever. Who wants to go first, guys?
I want to see what Jason's been fiddling with.
Jason?
Okay.
Tell me more.
So, what is it? A show and tell, I guess. So I hit up Joel. We shot Cornhusker, and I noticed that Joel and Ben were both wearing these little dudes, these little GoPros, on their cap. So I was like, hey, Joel, I think I might try that, see what I think. So I went and actually bought one. That's not what I'm here to show because I've actually not used this yet.
Are you still waiting on that mount?
I think so, yeah. So I ended up talking to another shooter, and he's using a pair of glasses that has a camera mounted to the top of the frame, and it's adjustable. So I actually bought one of these too. And my theory was I'll try them both, and they both have returns, so I'll return the ones I don't like. I'm to the point now where I should have known better. I probably won't return either one of them just because I don't want to mess with shipping it back and dealing with all that. So, but I have tried the aim cam glasses. So these come with 3 different colored lenses, the yellows that are installed, and I wanted to try these out specifically to see if I liked that tint. And so far, I think I really like that color. They come with clear, and then they come with sunglasses. So these are, if I'm correct, I have the box here. I'm almost positive. I just want to make sure before I say it that these are the ANSI rated or whatever. They're safety lenses. They're rated for safety lenses. And I can't find that on here, but I'm almost positive I've seen that. So anyways, so first thing you got to do is you got to figure out how to work it and set it up. So I've done that. And last week I ran through some drills at my practice range with these on and have been eyeing some video, put a couple videos on social media. So I'm kind of trying these out and seeing what I think. So far, I like them. For what they are, I do like them.
So walk me through what happened. So it's got obviously the camera is already attached to the frame.
Yep.
So you're limited on lens selection, right? It has to just be what they.
No, I mean, well.
Or can you put those on any? You can't put them on any frame though, correct?
Because it looks like the battery and some electronics are in the glasses itself.
Yes, there's some in the. Yes, Andreas is correct. This has a Wi-Fi where you can sync up to your phone. It's got a SD card slot. It's got a micro USB charger. They also have a microphone for you to pick up sound. So you've got basically 2 buttons on the side. One turns it on, and then once you turn it on, that's also your record. I think you can also take a still picture, which I don't remember how to do. But then there's a Wi-Fi where you can sync this up to your phone and dial in where you're looking. You can turn on a thing where it shows crosshairs, and you can adjust the camera to kind of dial that in. So yeah,
that sounds very similar. Wasn't there another product like that? It was like Pivot Head or something.
Yeah, you know what? There was one. I forgot about that one. Yeah,
and they went maybe bankrupt or something. But I remember some shooters like those.
Yeah, I never tried those, and I've never tried these until this last weekend. Now the lenses, I know HD Gold, Hunter's Gold makes lenses for these, but other than that, you are limited to that. But I mean, what else would you need? You know what I mean?
Okay. So shoot me straight. How much do these bad boys cost?
I want to say this is $250 if I remember correctly, plus shipping.
Okay.
Which is not super bad for what you get. Now it does come pre-mounted, but you're probably going to want to fiddle with it for what we're doing. I'm shooting an optic, and it's got 2 little posts on the top of it that you can mount it to the right eye or the left eye. And it's fairly adjustable.
So also if you're left or right-handed, obviously.
Yep.
Okay.
So I'm looking at that picture and it's sitting really low. I mean, the camera is like below the brow of the lenses.
So the way I've got it set up now, it is somewhat low, and I can see it in my vision. I didn't really feel like it obstructed too much. However, one thing this did kind of highlight for me is I realized I kind of point my head down when I shoot. So, and then shooting a dot, sometimes that kind of leads to somewhat inconsistencies, I think, more so than irons. And this is something I've kind of come up with in this last week, something I never really paid attention to. So, yeah, it is pretty low. I probably will adjust it back up and then angle the camera down. I was trying to get the dot, and so far I got the dot where it's in the window. And however, though the dot is in the window, I do think it's slightly off from what it shows on the camera to where the dot is actually pointing at on the target because of the angle and the lenses and stuff like that. However, again, I did use it one time to kind of go, okay, I was shooting a target and then went to the next target, and I was like, wow, you really didn't waste any time going from that target to the next target. And I slowed this video down and realized, well, you also picked up a Charlie, a near delta on that transition. So you shot early as you were dragging on. So it was kind of cool for that. But probably the golden question is would I wear these in a match? So we've got a match coming up in about a week and a half, and I will not be wearing these in that match.
Would you tell me why?
Yeah, would you in the future maybe?
I might, but after I have a little bit more time with them on there. And then even then, my initial feeling is no. They're heavier than normal glasses. They've got electronics in them, so when you sweat, it basically collects on this side here, and I'm a little worried about that. So I don't think
you don't want to electrocute yourself during a match.
I'm not really worried about that so much as breaking something. And then I'm also worried about the lens moving a little bit. And like I said, I probably will actually shoot some monthlies with it and then go from there. I've got a club match this weekend, which I won't use this because I'm going to be getting ready for the next weekend, which is our major match. So right now, I think these are pretty cool for just kind of seeing what you're doing, as far as just being able to film it. I don't know that the field of view and as up close as everything is to your body and the lens itself, I don't know if you're going to catch the angle of your mag well and was it off and is that why you missed your reload? These are cool, but I'm not sure how much value they've got for training purposes.
Interesting.
So whether you're going to get $250 of training value out of them is to be determined.
To be determined. I think they're cool. Another thing I thought of was hey, if your buddy wants you to film him, you just film him while you're wearing the glasses, so you don't have to grab his phone. So that's pretty cool.
That's worth $250 not to have to pick up somebody's phone and hold on to it with your hands.
I don't know about that, but I think that's sarcasm. But
that is a lot of sarcasm.
Yeah, it's a lot of sarcasm. They're pretty cool though. I will say that they are actually pretty cool. And again, to be fair, I've only used them a little bit. So Joel and I did an IG live on my cell phone on my account, and then I was also recording part of this. We got cut off in the middle because my phone got overheated and it timed out. But the second half, I got this on there, so I posted up that first-person view while I was talking to him, so you can watch that one and still hear what he and I are saying to each other. So that was kind of cool. They're cool. They are cool, and I think I like them. So if I can get the camera situated, I might shoot them at some club matches for sure.
I guess while we're talking about that, the other problem is, like you mentioned, maybe the frame's going to fit your face, maybe it's not, and maybe you're kind of reliant on the frames being something you feel like it fits your face and it doesn't obstruct your vision.
Yeah, so I will say this: I have a big head, and they fit my face okay. They're not horrible. I wore them for hours, for 2 days straight, for 2 or 3 hours at a time. I wasn't in pain, and so they weren't annoying that way. And you did get used to having them on. So I did they weren't horrible. But when I put my other glasses on, you immediately could tell that these things weigh 3 times as much, which we're still talking about not a lot of weight.
Mhm.
Like these things aren't super heavy by any means, but they are heavier than a normal pair of sunglasses. So they do fit my head, and I have a big head. If that gives anyone any kind of, indication. Now I will say one last thing. I don't think I'm going to use this thing either because this is a lot heavier and it's going to be up even higher. So like I now have basically two things, one that I've never used and both brand new. And then this one that I'm probably just going to use for fun. I'm probably going to keep them both and be like, well, I'll put this on a tripod and film something. You know what I mean? That way I don't have to set my phone out.
May I briefly, I don't know if this is your topic, may I briefly share my experience with the GoPro?
Please.
So I bought that thing like I don't know, everybody else has one. I should use one for training group. It'd come in handy. And I was like using it a bit for training. And I would notice it. And I just have a regular hat I would wear like for the normal garbage. And then if I was like getting ready to shoot something, I would put on that hat with the GoPro. And so then I was talking to Ben. And I was like, yeah, man, it's a little awkward kind of having that weight forward on your bill, but at least it doesn't obstruct your vision. I don't know. It's like, I don't know that I'll wear it for matches or not. And Ben's like, yes, wear it for matches. You'll be glad you did. And I'm like, okay. And then that happened to be the very first match I ever used that for was a section match that we shot together last year in it was Free State. And that was the first match I'd ever wore it, just other than practice. And I had a pretty favorable result at that match, which was actually good because I had like video to play back, like what happened, what didn't I like? And it was afterwards when I had all the footage to review, I was really glad I had it. And when I was actually shredding, like running through stages and stuff, I didn't notice it at all. I just made sure I had my hat on tight, so it wasn't like it was gonna flop around. But otherwise, like once you shoot with it a little bit, I didn't notice it at all. And it's just nice to have it because then afterwards, if you're thinking, man, that seemed like that went really well. It seemed like it was slower than I thought, faster than I thought. I want to, like kind of replay the footage as opposed to me to do it by memory. I also had video that was already ready.
It does seem, the first person does seem really helpful for, I don't have one myself, but seeing other people's video that it seems like it would be really helpful for when's the target available and when are you actually engaging it? So just looking for a lot of dead time coming into position and doing transitions.
So I'll say something about that. From what I can tell, and I'm talking about other footage, and this one I think is going to give you the best view of what's actually going on, just because it sits a little bit closer to the business. You know what I mean? To the what's going bang.
Mm-hmm.
So that's good to know because I may give this a little bit more of a shot then, and mess with it because I do like that. It does come with some nose pieces, so if it doesn't fit your nose, you can put those on. Even though I don't think I got mine, I think I might have lost mine or I didn't get them. So, but. Also, I was going to say one last thing. I don't film myself. Like
that's a good talking point because you don't want to bother other people, right? Is that fair?
So I typically don't film myself at all, and anything you see me shooting was from somebody else, usually filming it.
Jason's a nice guy. We talked about this privately. He just doesn't like to inconvenience people, basically, because he's that nice.
Well, I don't think that's it, but like I don't like to bug people about it because I feel like it's annoying because it's kind of annoying when people want me to film, so I feel like it's reciprocated. However, it's probably also accepted. But I've been meaning to start, but every time I'll be 3 stages into a match and I'll be like, oh, I haven't got anybody to film me. We'll start on this next stage and I forget. So I do want to get in the habit of filming myself more for learning and anything else I want to share. I mean, it's always cool if you have a good run and, or a whole good match and you post it up. So I think I might give these another shot now that you've said that, Joel.
I think you should. And if you don't want that garbage, like obstructing what you actually see, just a little bit of extra weight on the bill of your hat, you won't. After you shoot, it won't even matter.
And I got to be honest with you, I'm pretty confident that this could be raised up and be out of the way. And even where it's at, to be honest with you, it wasn't super bad. And I did run some drills where I would run from spot to spot to spot. And I never felt like this was going to fall off my face. And in fact, I didn't even notice it. So all that being said, I've kind of went from one direction to another direction and then back around, and who knows where I've landed.
Oh, you're good. I like it. Very worth conversation anyway. Something to think about. Mr. Andreas, what would you like to talk about, sir?
So talk about training and this week in shooting. So we've been doing the group shooting for the drill of the month.
We have been.
We have been. And my group shooting's not amazing. And so I was working on the trigger control at speed, where you program in your buzzer just to give you one beep, and then you get the gun mounted, and at the beep, you pull a trigger. And I was realizing that this kind of takes the draw and takes some other things out of it. So I redid it with giving myself a 2-second par time. So at the buzz, I would draw the gun and come out to full extension and onto a little target, like a little pacer or a little pacer on the wall in my basement. And then at the second buzz, I would pull a trigger or do a trigger control at speed. And having that 2-second gap, I mean, nobody needs 2 seconds to draw and hit a pacer. So you get about a half second plus of dead time where you can really feel your grip after the draw. And then you have the buzz for the trigger control at speed. And that's interesting so far. I think I'm picking up some newer things on my grip of just how my grip is when the gun stops at full extension, because you have that little built-in pause. Like you're going to pause for half a second, 3/4 of a second before you get the second beep that tells you to whack the trigger hard. So kind of curious what you guys think of that. Is that something you've ever played with?
I want to go first. So first of all, I've been saying to people to do this for a long time. So I'm going to take credit for this drill.
Okay.
I'm going to assume that you heard me and forgot about it and it crept in your mind.
I'm sure that's what happened.
Yeah, exactly. So
100%.
Seriously, I have done that. But what I've done, mine was slightly different. It was slightly better, but slightly different.
Of course, it's better.
Of course.
No, seriously.
Naturally.
So I would say if it takes you a 1.2 seconds to draw to a target, give yourself a 1/10 or 2/10 extra.
Okay.
And I like what you've done, but I'll also say I'll suggest that you basically cut your time down, and here's why. I think so it's very interesting because you realize, hey, I've got the gun up. Oh, it was slightly off, and I was able to align it back, and then still beat the buzzer, and then do the trigger control at speed part. So, like for instance, if you're drawing to a very simple target that would take you a second to draw, and then you're waiting for another second, that to me, so many things can happen. You can move all over, but if you shorten that time up, like to 2/10 or 1/10 of a second, it puts the pressure on you to beat the par time. But not only to beat the par time, but it gives you time to assess. Hey, I indexed right to where I was looking. Oh, I was off a little bit. I aligned it back and still did the drill successfully. So I like this drill a lot. And then I'll say one last thing. At the end, I'll add one transition to the end of it. So, and then the goal is to, after the trigger control part, my eyes need to snap to a spot on the next target and let the gun show up. And so, anyways, that's not something you have to do, but I think I would suggest trying it. But I like this drill a lot.
Yeah, I was thinking that with the transition afterwards, and I've realized I really want a buzzer that has like as many.
3.
Yeah, they can do 3 buzzes or as many buzzes as you want. Like that would be kind of nice.
Doesn't the CED have more than one buzzer or something like that? I thought there is one out there. I've got a CED that I've had literally probably for 4 years. It's still in the box, brand new. So I don't even know if it works anymore.
Yeah, there's the new hotness, the AMG timer that I don't know. I haven't looked at that one either, if that does multiple buzzes. But yeah, the cutting the par time down so it's just enough time that you can get the gun out and kind of feel, is everything good? Like just to feel your grip. And then you have the buzz that tells you to do trigger control at speed. I think that I'll fiddle with that tomorrow at lunch.
Cool.
So, but yeah, you do kind of realize that when the gun comes out, as you said, that how close was I? How long did it take me to clean it up? Was my grip solid? Because as soon as you pull the trigger, your grip, there's a little shift, like things are moving around a little bit.
Yeah. And the one last thing I'll say is with just enough, like a 1/10 more, it adds a little bit of pressure of like, I'm off, correct this before I pull the trigger and break it. So I'm big on this now where like I'll add in every few other days, I'll add in something that maybe I'm not trying to induce errors like to where I'm picking up bad habits, but if I have an error that I have to fix the problem and then get back on track and not rush through the end of the drill. So this is one of those deals where normally what newer shooters, especially, and I'm saying this because this is what I did, when I would have a missed draw and my sights were misaligned, I was like, holy crap, I'm behind now. I'm now behind this Joe Blow shooter over here, and now I've got to increase speed and pick up and make that time back up, which you never will do. You might get lucky every once in a while, but so it gives you that sensation of I have to correct this and still beat this buzzer. So I really liked that. Your mileage may vary.
Yeah, that's a whole nother topic for later. We're not really doing reactive shooting. It's like things got to happen in a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
Man, I like it. Yeah, for training group members, group shooting is the drill of the month, and there's a lot of conversation within that thread on the forum, because that was all Jason's idea.
If you like it, you're welcome. If you hate it, I'm sorry.
No, Jason's like, hey, I'm like, Jason, why don't you pick the drill of the month and you can do the podcast and basically just do my work for me and I'll check out mentally. And Jason said, we should do group shooting. And I was like, oh, yeah, okay, haha, very funny. Like, so what do you want to do? And Jason's like, no, group shooting. I said, okay, what are we going to talk about? Equal height or something? And then he goes into this long detail. I'm like, oh, yeah, you're right. I guess there's a lot to talk about. Yeah, let's go. Sounds good. I'm in. Because saying smart things is something Jason does quite a bit.
Very kind. You're very kind.
It's factual, sir. Okay, my topic. I have a trigger warning. My trigger warning could be described as, if you aren't the shooter, stay out of the on-deck shooter's way. Probably pretty spoiled. Normally when I go to major matches or club matches, normally I do just squad with my homeboys and, everybody, we're used to shooting together and everybody knows like, hey, Jason's getting ready to shoot. I'm not going to go mess with them. I'm not going to get in his way, or it looks like he's visualizing. I'm going to leave him alone, or it looks like he's walking through the stage. Why don't I not go walk in front of him to go look at a target or something? But I had an experience recently that I don't think the person would be listening to this. Judged on a lot of things, but
I know what criteria that meets.
It was a stage. There was a couple spots where you had to be standing in a very specific spot to see targets, and it was a bit of reactive shooting. It wasn't something just mindless. So let's say I'm 2/3 of the way down the shooting order, and everybody's already had the walkthrough. We did like a 4 or 5 minute walkthrough. We're actually going down the list. The person ahead of me is just like shooting. They're shooting the stage. So I'm kind of just standing back, of course. And then once they're done, they show clear, hammer down, holster, all that stuff. They walk forward. They're checking the targets. So I go to stand in the shooting area, of course, like a good boy, like I'm supposed to. And I'm walking through it again, visualizing, and kind of step back, visualize it for a second, walk it again, whatever. Well, then I looked ahead. There's this person standing in front of me. I said, oh, I'm sorry. Are you up next? And this person said, oh, no, I just haven't looked at the stage yet. I wanted to take a look at it before it's my turn. I said, oh, okay. And then I just kind of politely stood there as this person, I don't know, walked around the stage, I suppose. And then once they got done, they then exited the shooting area and I went back to doing what I was doing. So, in this situation, maybe the person just didn't know any better. But overall, I guess my trigger warning would be aware of what everyone else is doing at the match and try to be respectful, especially if you aren't the one that is getting ready to shoot. So if we're, obviously we're all friends, of course I want to go walk up and talk to these guys if I see them in a match. But if I see Andreas kind of standing back from everyone with his eyes closed and he's kind of like air gunning, or I see it looks like his head's moving around, like, oh, this guy's visualizing. Why don't I go up and tell Andreas about this new video game I got? I bet this would be a great time to tell him about it. Or if I see Jason walking through the stage, let me walk through and be like, oh, Jason, your shoes are untied. Haha, very funny. Obviously, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but just have awareness of what other people are doing and try to be respectful. Because, there's kind of a correlation, I think, between, visualizing and preparing for the stage and just winging it.
For sure.
What's that MacGruber line? There's winging it. They're seeing what happens. Let's see what happens. Is that right, I think?
I was not thinking of that McGruber line. I was thinking of a few others that
All
I won't repeat here.
right, perfect. Well, this is after dark. You can go nuts, man. I don't care.
That's true.
No. So anyway, just be mindful and respectful of what other people are doing, and you know, I think that's a good practice to be in.
And exit out the back of the stage.
Yes, boom, love it.
For real, actually, yeah. Let's bring that back, because it caught on right as I was coming into the sport. It's faded away.
We just have to let people know what's up, man.
Yeah. Can I tell a funny story? I think this is funny.
Absolutely not.
I'm okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I'm not against, basically, probably to a fault, pointing out mistakes that I've made and times when I've looked like an idiot. So we were shooting a match. I won't say which match. A pretty big match, and it was a couple years ago. And I'm walking the stage, but it's not my turn. And the shooter who's the shooter who's now up, they're walking the stage. But in my mind, I'm like, well, yeah, I'm not going to get in their way, but they're over there and I'm over here. And then I'm kind of getting an engagement, and before I know it, they're trying to run this stage back over to where wanting to run past me. And I try to jump out of the way, and they basically just very abruptly and straight to the point said, "Hey, get off the stage. You're not the shooter." I didn't say anything because they were right, and I didn't want to be like, "Oh, hey, dude, don't be a prick about it," because I didn't want to engage with them and get them sidetracked. Right? They didn't need to expend any mental bandwidth. I really immediately knew I was wrong, and I jumped back off. And then when they were done shooting, I was like, if they say something, I'll be like, "I'm sorry." And they did. They said, "Hey, typically when it's the person on deck, it's their stage. So everybody needs to stay off the stage. However, there is some gray area that if they're all the way down at the end and you want to step into the box and you're on deck, you get a good feel, but definitely stay out of their way." Anyways, that was Jared Fox that told me that. And I was like, "Hey, thanks for telling me. It's not something I thought about. I basically try to treat people like I would like to be treated. And so that wouldn't have bothered me. However, it now bugs me." So we were shooting Cornhusker, and a guy that was behind me, every stage was really about after the third stage, I think he kind of, and I never said anything to him. I debated whether or not I wanted to, because then if you say something, are you guys arcing against each other, just, the whole time? So I didn't.
You're a nice guy. I get it.
Yeah. And it sort of smoothed itself out. Now I will say this one last thing, and I'm kind of getting off topic here. I did say at this match, the line sometimes will start to form multiple spots.
Yeah.
And I did say, "Hey guys, let's form this line behind in this one." You know what I mean? Because everybody was in this one line, but like two people. And that's nothing that anyone did on purpose. And just like this, most people don't do this on purpose. It's something they're not aware of. So be kind if somebody's doing it to you, and explain to them, "Hey, I think the social norm here is to kind of stay off and stay out of the shooter's way." Because they were once idiots like me.
Yeah, and if I'm gonna educate somebody, if I'm gonna actually say something, I just prefer to say something when it's the benefit of somebody else, and then I don't feel bad. Yeah. Whereas don't get out of my. I was like, "Hey, get out of my way." Instead, it's like, "Oh, hey, Jason's getting ready to shoot. Make sure you stay out of his way so he can walk the stage." And I don't feel as bad.
Well, you're a nice
guy.
Yeah, you're nice.
I think we're recording again, guys. Very sorry. I don't know what happened, but
no worries.
I dropped you at some point. So, Jason, you hear us?
I do.
All right.
Can you hear
sorry
me?
for the technical difficulties. Yes. Okay. I don't know. Okay, we should do a shooting question. Before that, I do have a bit of housekeeping that I should have mentioned at the beginning of the show. Ben and I are doing a class it's really near Columbus, Ohio. The date it's Saturday and Sunday. It's July 31st and August 1st. So if you're in that area and want to train up with us and do a class, whatever, go to Ben's website under the Take a Class, or message me and I get you in touch with the organizer. It sounds like maybe 1 or 2 spots open in that class.
Also, have Ben coming to Atlanta, Georgia over Halloween weekend. So have some classes before and after Halloween weekend.
Let's go.
So same thing. benstoger.com, take a class. I'm the class organizer, so it'll give you my email address.
It'll give you Andreas's digits. Well,
yeah.
The electronic email digits. Okay, guys, let's do a question. I got this one from Training Group. I'm going to be self-serving and answer a question from Training Group. What goes through your mind before, during, and after a stage? I was under the impression most people make a list of cues during the walkthrough, then recall those cues during the stage. When I shoot, I just go down that list in my head, but everyone says, or everyone I talk to says the ideal mental state is to shoot with, is blank and to just observe. Maybe I'm dumb, but these concepts seem to contradict each other. Who wants to go up to bat first on this one?
Andreas has got this one.
I think he does too. It's like Professor Kim. I won't say 2.0 because you're not better or worse, but this will be the same deal. It'll be like, all right, Kim just talks. Like, all right, well, thanks. Now we have nothing to talk about because you answered the question. But go ahead, Mr. Andreas.
So before I'm making the cue list that he's talking about, and the cue, I mean, I'm running the movie through my head, and it's not just go here, do this. It's like the full experience of what I expect it to feel like as well. So like I'm feeling how I'm gripping the gun. I'm feeling if I'm coming out of a position hard, I can feel my muscles tensing up and pushing off and running hard. I can feel how the gun's going to recoil and all that. And I try to also feel that I am aggressive, but not reckless. So just kind of what kind of mental state I want as I'm shooting.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll run that one more time during the make ready. And when I'm waiting for the beep, I'm just looking at the first thing I'm going to do. And after that, I'm just paying attention to what's happening. Like I am not, it just all happens. Like I am not, it's not like I have a stack, like I'm coming up with a list of, like a stack of Post-it notes that have things on them.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not like I'm mentally pulling one off the stack after the next as I'm shooting the stage. Like there's no time for that. It's just,
I like that.
The buzzer goes and it's on like when you I don't know if you as kids you made where you stack up a whole bunch of index cards and you draw stick figures moving. It's just like
you flip through. Yes.
Yeah, when you run the stage, like there's no time to think about anything. It's just you got that stack of Post-it notes and you're just like flipping them like through in your mind. And ideally, you're not even thinking about the flipping. You're just watching it happen. If I have to think about anything, that means that there's been something has gone very wrong. Something's gone
Andreas,
very wrong.
You're saying this would be like subconscious. Is that a fair way to say it?
100%.
Like it'd be conscious, conscious and subconscious. So what would be like conscious shooting? Would that be fast, Jason? Do you suspect? If I'm like, oh, I need to draw the gun out of the holster. Yep, I like my grip. Now let's look at the sights. It'd be like reactive shooting for every target, and then be like, hey, I think it's time to reload the gun. I'll hit the button. Let's find another magazine right here. It goes in the gun. That doesn't sound like a recipe for speed, right?
Yeah, I agree with you both. And when I first was listening to this question, I was thinking like, well, that's going to take too much time to go. Okay, do the next thing, do the next thing, do the next thing. So
it's too slow.
It is too slow. So I liked Andreas's analogy of the flipping the stick figures or the cartoon essentially stack, and that makes the real animation or whatever. Maybe would you guys say that it's also maybe you're programming it step by step repeatedly in your walkthrough so you can go on autopilot, right, and then just observe. So there may be like okay, so you want to basically be empty, void of thought, and then be on one thing maybe. Like you're like, okay, the sight's there. So there is some processing either while it's going on or after it's happened, and it's such a fast firing of the neurons, it's kind of hard to perceive of when that's happening. So, for instance, I believe that like calling foot faults is almost, unless the person stays on the foot fault, it's a 50-50 shot if it's going to get the right call. Because if something happens so fast, the person with the timer, and it just can happen to anybody, might think, well, that was over, and they didn't realize that it was corrected before they, and then when did the shot break? So I use that as an example because it might indicate or demonstrate what I'm talking about. But I did like that. I think you can't really sit there and consciously think about everything and then carry it out and then repeat.
I mean, you're going to when you first start participating in the sport, you're going to be doing.
You are going to doing that, yes.
And your goal is to stop doing that as fast as possible.
Your goal is to get to where you can.
Where you don't have to.
I agree with that. Yeah, but it's almost like you kind of have to pay your dues to where you build that skill to where eventually you're just kind of observing. And it's one of them deals, to be honest with you, it's kind of, in my opinion, it's like shot calling. When you're new, you hear this thing called shot calling, and you hear people give all kinds of explanations, but it just doesn't really make sense to you until you're able to kind of do it.
Let me throw this out there. This might sound like total crazy talk.
Let's hear it.
What if I said that what people think they do and what they actually do, and not all, but in some situations, is not the same thing? So somebody might have something they just recite as to the process or what they do, but I don't think, maybe some do, some don't, but not everyone that would talk about this, maybe me included, I don't know, what they think they do is maybe not what happens.
100%.
Sound reasonable, Andreas?
That sounds reasonable. People may not be thinking about it as much as they think.
Mm-hmm. So to echo kind of what you guys said, I'm not going to rehash everything you just said, but I agree. When I'm like, so he talks about what's going in your mind through it before, during, and after a stage. Before is all the detail of everything that could possibly go wrong. That's a headshot. I am going to be cranking on these close targets really hard. This is dangerous. Make sure you slow down. Reactive shooting. Okay, coming around the corner, I'm going to really want to over aim, just react to the color of my fiber. I'm setting up all these rules for myself, or thinking about what might go right, might go wrong. This target array, I want to make sure I shoot this right to left. I feel like if I do it, I'm moving left, and I feel like I'm shooting targets to the right. It'll be too easy to pull off that last target because I'm going to want to really get around this corner, and I could have a miss. I don't want to do that. So I'm like picking out all these things that could go wrong and setting up rules for myself for what I need to see or what needs to happen so I can navigate the stage. So that's all during the visualization, like Andreas said, the cueing, where I'm thinking about I need to feel my hands a specific way, or magazine, or gripping the gun, or thumb on the safety, or whatever you like. And then I agree, like when it's happening, it happens so fast, you can't do it all consciously. It just doesn't happen. And sometimes I'll have little thoughts that happen during that. And I think it's kind of the parts that I think about really being difficult parts that I want to give extra thought or focus to. And I'll remember that happening. But it's mainly on specific tasks where I'm thinking, hey, dummy, reactive shooting, slow down. You have to see the front notch or the front sight through the rear notch. You know, reactive shooting, press, get another sight picture. You know, and it's all happening so fast. But outside of those little events, for the most part, it kind of just happens. I'll observe, like you guys said, observe it all happening, where I remember everything I saw. I could talk to you about it afterwards. It wouldn't just be like, well, I don't know, the buzzer went off and I don't really know what happened. It wouldn't be that situation, but I'm not making yes or no decisions while it's happening. Or if I do, it's happening extremely fast.
Yeah, just an example of detail. I had a recent match where we had some 20-yard partials. There was a tuxedo and an upper A zone partial where I wanted to aim just inside just below the perf. And in my visualization, I was visualizing the sight lifting straight up and coming back down on the first shot, then lifting up and coming back down on the second shot. And I wanted the sight to come back down before I transitioned off those targets, because there wasn't another chance to engage them if something went wrong. So that was part of my rehearsal. It was like not just the sight lifts and you transition off, but I wanted the sight to come back down, just in case, like sometimes you pull a trigger and the sight takes off at a squirrely angle. You're like, yeah, I don't think that's very good. And one of my friends came up to me after the stage and commented that, yeah, it seemed like you waited, like you hesitated a moment before coming off of those targets. I'm like, it's exactly what I wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I had alphas on both, or 2 alphas on both of them. So that was good. But that was some good affirmation that like just the level of detail I had visualized happened when I was just running it on autopilot. But I was waiting for those, like getting that confirmation of the sight coming back down
Jason,
before I transitioned off.
I'm going to guess you've had those moments also where you have something you remember in like super 4K, whatever detail of this is what the sight said, or this is what happened, or the gun moved, or whatever?
Yeah. I mean, I can't really recall one, but I know
I
it's
don't
happened.
need you to give me an example, but you've had that happen before. Is that fair?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then kind of just to wrap up his question, he's like, after a stage, then what goes through your mind? You guys have anything specific for that?
I'm usually out of breath. And it's like it takes me a little bit to just before anything really comes back.
Jason, what about you, sir?
So, I mean, it's kind of hard. I don't know if anybody else does this. I would imagine this is pretty common, that I'm essentially recalling what I think and kind of assigning a pass or fail, maybe even was that a 70% or a 95%, right? And I'm not talking about in terms of like how much I'm pushing, because not the we'll pull it back to 95% when you run a stage. No, the success rate. So, and then I'm assigning, oh yeah, you kind of were slightly out of position and you had to lean a little further, and that cost you a half a second. Those things don't eat me up, but if I do something stupid, that really kind of pisses me off, and then so I have to kind of go, okay, well, you didn't do the process correctly for that, whatever that was, and you'll do it correctly from now on. This rest of this match, get it on track, and then I leave it there. It's hard because especially if you really have something that you're upset about. I'll let myself steam a little bit for a few seconds, and and if you shot with me, you'd be like, I've seen it, and it's more of an explosion than a steam a little bit, but smoldering. But it just depends. I'm getting better at it, so that's the goal.
I kind of just know from my mental state at the end whether the stage went well or not.
Yep.
Like if it went well, I get to the end and I'm like, that just happened. Like everything just happened fast. Like it was like at the borderline out of control, but it was fast. But like it was all there. And I'll just know if something went wrong, it's going to snap me out of that subconscious execution at some point. And I'll get to the end of the stage and I don't know, maybe I'll throw magazines or who knows. Like it depends on how bad it went wrong.
Yeah, I would say very similar to you guys. So I'll just like stand there and pick up my magazines off the ground while I hear them call to alpha and all the targets. I already know where they went. Like,
yeah,
maybe I'll walk along just to make sure it gets scored correctly. I already know where they're there. Maybe I have one specific target. I'm like, not so sure. That's going to be a very close Charlie. If it's a Charlie, and I'll like walk straight to that target. Okay, we're
yeah, I may walk to one target if I didn't quite see what I wanted on that one.
Yeah, you're like,
if I didn't see what I wanted on a couple of targets, I'll just walk back and just like I don't fucking care and just refill magazines.
Yeah, and then I don't know. I feel like I've seen it in movies enough where you're like you relive, I don't know, whatever it is, 5 minutes worth in like a half a second.
Yeah.
You kind of like I just kind of briefly like it all goes through my mind, and then if there's any real problems, I'll kind of just leave me alone. I'll go load my magazines, and then I'll hit approve your score, whatever. I'm loading magazines. I'm kind of just playing back the tape. Like,
yeah.
There was a match recently. I was just like, what just happened? And then I'm like, I know I saw my front sight. I remember very distinctly. It was confirmation 3. I remember seeing it centered in the tuxedo target, and I remember like the feeling of pressing the trigger very gently with my support hand clamped down and my firing hand loose. Like, what happened? I'm thinking about like, no, think about this, you idiot. I'm like, where was the rear sight? Oh,
yeah,
okay. I got that. Okay, and like that's for me. Like I'm loading my magazines, I'll think about it, and I remember that feeling, and I was like instantly, I'm like kind of angry about it. Of course, it's like okay, so what needs to change going on? Okay, that's right. There's a rear sight on this gun, so it needs to be. If the confirmation 3 shooting means I need to see the front sight through the rear sight, like okay, let's take that on board. I need to apply that to the next stage, like load my magazines, and then off I go. But I'll try to like, if I can, not necessarily get better in the day, but if there's something that went wrong, I'll make corrections to what's happening or extra things to visualize, during the course of a match. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Andreas. What were you going to say?
I was saying, I think once the adrenaline's worn off a little bit and you're refilling magazines, I think it's a good time to go through what you visualized and what happened. And like, did they track well or did they not? And if they didn't track well, what was off? Was it detail? Was it like maybe you were too wound up or not wound up enough? And how do how can you improve things for the next stage, or how, like, did you just do great and you just need to keep doing that for the rest of the day?
Yeah, and I've had those too, where it's like, man, let's go. This is tracking exactly how it's supposed to.
Yeah.
I'll just load my mags, make sure I continue to hydrate or whatever, and I'll just keep this going.
Because yeah, that's a pretty important part, I think, of how to say it. Like you don't want to, you want to leave each stage, like whether a stage is good or bad, you want to leave it in that bay for the next one. But you do want to take some info with you.
Yeah, because if you're like, well, I'll just worry about it when I get home. It's like, well, Jason, if you would have worried about it during that stage, you would have realized you didn't have a dot on your gun anymore. It fell off.
Right.
Or like, oh, if you would have just took 2 seconds, you would have realized, whatever.
Yeah.
Your trigger stopped resetting, or maybe it's not that. It could be something you're doing, but
yeah, I think it's more like if you have a bad stage, that try to review it in a way that doesn't shake your confidence for the rest of the match. And if you have a really good stage, try to just use that as affirmation that your process was good, not that you got this one in the bag.
I like that.
It. Guys, I think this was a bang up podcast.
Always.
Well, they always are when I have you two dudes on here. So I guess a good point to wrap this up. Listeners, if you have a question you want the answer to, go to my website. It's bensteger.com. Send me your question. We'd love to hear from you.